the basket. James catches, puts up the three. Won't go. Rebound Bosh. Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang! Tie game with 5 seconds remaining.
Welcome to the Ultimate Super Coach and Fantasy Sports Show. You are now listening to the Insight Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Boom shakalaka!
Shakalaka indeed. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you are listening to us. It is the Insight Fantasy Sport Podcast. I'm your host today, Super Coach Hawk. You might have heard me on the AFL podcast, sitting here with the NBA Mattrix himself. And I tell you what, I'm going to be throwing a lot his way because this isn't my specialty, but boy, oh boy, do I love it. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, excited to be here. We just did our so we're in Australia, so we just did a couple footy pods. So yeah, just rolling into the NBA, and there's heaps happening with free agency. But this is your first NBA podcast, so give us a bit of a rundown, give us a bit of your background, Robbie.
And I'm pumped. So basketball for me is all about, I was lucky enough. Tennis was my sport as a player. I was lucky enough to go and live in Los Angeles for 7 years playing sport over there. Moved over when I was 15 until about the age of 22. LA. So I was Southern California. I was there for the three-peat. I am a Kobe man through and through. Rest in peace, my man. I was lucky enough to see those series against Sacramento when they were playing against the Webbers and all those types and the Bibbies when we hated them. It was also the time when if you won the Western Conference, you swept the final. Like to win the championship was to win the Western Conference Finals, and it was amazing, and I loved it. So definitely a Lakers man through and through until I die. I was going to sit here with my GOAT Caruso, Alex Caruso. Just loved him when he came to the Lakers. Hated seeing him leave. Dare I say, am I moving a little bit to an Austin Reeves fan? Am I a LeBron James fan? I don't know just yet, but I am a Lakers fan, and I'll never switch. I'll never trade. So look, love my fantasy basketball, love my fantasy sport. But look, I love chatting to you boys. Met you boys through the Molten chat. And yeah, I look to you guys for most of the insight, but I'm going to bring what I can bring. We'll see how we go.
Yeah, you've performed, you're giving yourself a bit of not enough of a rap. You've performed pretty well in some of the comps that I've been with. But we're specifically going to be talking about 12-team leagues. So, 12-team, 9-cat. Let's see what we can get out. We'll have a look into, I suppose, the free agency moves, and not only what that means for the players getting moved, as to probably where they sort of fall in the pecking order, and how that affects the rest of the guys in the team. Because I know I definitely, I suppose, proved my mettle in drafts as to trying to get a couple sleepers, like trying to get a guy at 40 that I think has the upside of being a 20 player, trying to get a guy at 80 that I think that could be a 60, the top 60 guy. So, yeah, let's lead the way. Where are we going, Rob?
We're going to dive straight in. Big shout out. Let's get into our sponsors first. Support those who support us. So the Standard Squeeze. I'm sitting here with my 4-in-1, having a little whiskey as we go along tonight. It is nighttime here. It is not before midday. So a huge shout out to the Standard Squeeze. If anybody's out there, go and jump on the Standard Squeeze website. Use our code INSIGHT15 to get 15% off. Massive shout out to the gang at Snap Fitness 24/7. I do want to give a shout out to legionhoops.com. I'm looking at their free agency tracker, and boy, oh boy, is it an amazing diagram and a graphic. So thank you to them for this graphic. We're going to go off them. We're going to go in alphabetical order, starting with their Blazers. So it's not name order. It's brand order, I guess we're going with. What are we going with? So we start with the Blazers, mate, and we're going to start with Jeremy Grant. 5 years, $160 million. He could feed a small nation with what he's getting paid for. What's your grading on that? What's your grading on what they're paying out, and how does that affect his fantasy stats and maybe the fantasy stats for the rest of the team?
So I just think that they paid $160 million for a role player. Yeah, not too excited about it. Not too excited from a fantasy standpoint, because Lillard said that he wants to leave. Look, if Lillard stays, it's just got a lot of, I suppose, Lillard looking after his boy. He held out, said, I'm a chance of re-signing. We'll see what happens. They've signed his mate, and went and got his mate $160 million contract. So yeah, props to Lillard. But I suppose Jeremy Grant. Man, what do you see? Because I see a bloke that you want in your championship team to be the fourth best player on your team. Well, I probably won't be touching him with a 10-foot pole this year for fantasy. He comes
I
off
love field goal
20 points per
percentages.
game.
I love field goal percentages. This guy's going to get you points per game. That's pretty much it. He might knock down a couple of threes, but like his field goal percentage is going to be up the absolute wazoo. And I think he's just going to blow you out. I think there's going to be massive amounts of turnovers. I think this guy's going to think he's the man now. He's going to think he's the guy. And you know what? You're not. You're not the guy. So, yeah, massive overs here. Look, Lillard's gone. It's a question of who comes in. And I think we need to touch on that quickly. Who does come in? Is it going to be Miami? So is it going to be Tyler Hero? Is it going to be, does Robinson come with him? Does Jovic come with him? What does that look like? And will that affect what happens on this team?
Yeah, it definitely will. So Scoot Henderson, congratulations. You just got the keys to the city. You can thank Dave for that.
Absolutely.
Anthony Simons is going to be racking up a lot of shots, and Shaden Sharp at this point is going to be knocking down a lot of shots. I suppose Anthony Simons was a guy that was drafted fairly high last year. So I'll probably be staying away from him because of his ADP being quite high last year and everybody expecting, I suppose, where he went. So his ADP last year was 99 and 91 on ESPN's. I'll probably look for someone like Shaden Sharp to get in and around that 100 that has that upside because he could blow up this year. I really liked what I saw from him.
So he's on your sleeper list. We've got the NBA Mattrix list going. I'm putting, mate, I always take notes. When you talk about sleepers, I'm taking notes. My nightmares are when you and I are in the same draft and you're right next to me. My wet dreams are when we're split on other sides, mate, because I know you. I'm sending you messages like, is it sleeper time? It's sleeper time. Let's go. So is that what you see in Shaden Sharp? Is he a sleeper, big sleeper to go like late 90s?
Yeah, definitely. And it's something you've got to see. Look, if he slides even further, I wouldn't reach for him because if somebody's reaching for him in the 70s or the 80s, there's probably somebody else falling to me. But yeah, I'm probably going to put him straight in my draft board in and around that, I suppose, 90 and let somebody reach for Anthony Simons. And yeah, I suppose we'll see what Scoot. There's too many question marks for me to take Jeremy Grant at his, what's Jeremy Grant? Probably gets picked around 50. Too many question marks for me.
No, I agree. So we move on to the Bucks. 3 big signings on the board at the moment. I think there's one more. So after this was done, Malik Beasley has signed as well. I'm pretty sure it's 2.7 mil for the 1 year. Pretty good signing, if you ask me. Chris Middleton's gone 3 years for 102. Brook Lopez, 2 years for 48 mil. And Jay Crowder just listed there as the 1 year. Where do you rate that?
Yeah, I like what they've got back. I think Malik Beasley is a big upgrade over somebody like Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton. They actually lost Dante DiVincenzo last year, so it's a little bit of a replacement for that sort of role. It doesn't matter. You just need a shooter to pop in there. They've kept Drew. They've kept Chris Middleton. Chris Middleton's helped the team out, so he's went and taken a reduction in his pay to try and go towards probably signing Brook Lopez and having a run. The one that I look at, and I know it's going to be boring because it is a re-sign, is Brook Lopez. So if you're drafting Brook Lopez, you're going to want to start tanking rebounds and and maybe even field goal percentage because he is a big man that just pops out, gets blocks in defense, and just shoots threes. What do you think?
No, I think you're spot on. I think it's that fine line between, look, you get a big man that might knock down a couple of threes, but that's going to come with field goal percentage. I tend to steer clear of it. Look, he gets good blocks as well. He gets good block numbers. It's not too bad. He doesn't get the boards. You're spot on. We know Giannis is going to be filling up the stats with a triple-double on average most nights as he pushes through. So Brook Lopez is one that I stay away from. He doesn't give me what I want from my team. But again, like anything, you've got to be looking at where you're sitting in your draft, what order you're at, and who are your first 2 picks, and then start to build around that. If you're going to be a 3-point made type team, then he's somebody that you might pick up later. I still want to know that I'm getting high field goal percentage, high blocks, high rebounds from my big man. But he's a steer clear for me. I also want to see how they're going to front up and what that lineup's going to look like. They've got a few different options.
See, I don't hate it. If I get a couple of really good 3-point shooting guards and everything, I might look to that, start tanking start taking field goal percentages, go after those threes, and just lean in. Like if you miss out on Jokic, your Embiids, and everybody like that, what are you going to be getting there down the track? Like Yusuf Nurkic? Nah, fuck no. I'm getting Brook Lopez, and I'm just going to have a dig. Another guy that I don't mind, like everybody can talk about Giannis. He's going to go probably top 5. Maybe he's fell off a bit because people hate his free throw percentage. But Chris Middleton...
If you don't drop off Giannis. Don't drop off Giannis. That's silly. That's silly. Like the guy does everything. He doesn't shoot the 3, fine. His free throws suck. But do you know what? I'm actually a big fan of giving away free throws. If I'm going to give away one, it's free throws. I actually it really opens a door for you when free throws is you just give it up. It amazingly opens up a different amount of players that you can start to pick. You can look at some 3-point shooters. You can look at some assist givers. You can really start to fill some stats. You can look for some boards. You go some big point guards. Dare I say Ben Simmons, who knows what the frick he's going to do this year. But you know what I mean? Those types of players where you go...
Maybe Cade Cunningham.
Better call. Much better call. Well done.
Yep.
See, this is why I said you're the expert. This is where we go with this. But exactly, it opens up the door. But again, it depends who I'm picking. I mean, if I've got Steph Curry in my first round, well, then I've got to rejig my whole thinking as I go through this process. So, yeah, you're right. That's where Brook Lopez possibly comes into conversation for.
Yeah,
for sure.
And a similar sort of bloke, like last year, Chris Middleton was, I suppose, drafted in and around that sort of 50 mark. As he ages and as we saw, some injury concerns, I think that probably knocks him back 20 spots. He wasn't very efficient last year. He dropped off stats-wise, and realistically, he's just not a guy that I am going to be looking at.
The Bulls. Nikola Vucevic just signed 3 years, $60 million. Kobe White, 3 years, $33. Javon Carter, 3 years, $20 million. And Torrey Craig, 2 years, 5.4. They've gone quiet. I know they were heavily looking at trades, for their big names, and they just couldn't really get much movement at the moment. Do you think that list is going to stay as it is? You got the depth chart in front of you. What do you feel is going to go on in Bull Land?
Mate, they've just got to make some. They've got to make some moves. I don't know if it means trading one of those big guys. I know they went and got the mid-tier exception for Lonzo Ball being out of a year, but having that much money and I suppose hope tied up in a bloke like that. Look, I think it's going to be a wait and see. Robbie K. What is it? Watch this space. My bad. With Chicago.
You're going to start paying me royalties, mate, if you say it too much, I tell you what.
Nah, really, there's not too much I want. I like Javon Carter, and I don't mind Kobe White, but I think if you're looking at 12 teams, they could be just a guy that you have a little dart throw at towards the end of the, towards the end of the comp, because they're going to be around for a while. I've really liked Javon Carter ever since I've seen him play for the Grizzlies and sort of followed him along. Let's get up his stat from last year because I really don't mind him. Last year, he shot at 42% from 3, 42% field goal percentage, 2.5 rebounds and 2.5 assists in just 22 minutes a game. Look, it is only 8 points per game, but he wasn't getting a lot of opportunity on that Bucks team. He's going to get some opportunity now, and he shoots efficiently.
Does he, though? How many minutes do you reckon he gets a game? Honestly, I mean, this is a stacked list. This list is stacked. You got Levine, DeMar DeRozan. You've just signed Kobe White to $11 million a year. You still got Caruso sitting there. It's a stacked lineup. I know I'm missing some players as well as I go through it. It's a stacked lineup. Does he really get enough minutes to be fantasy relevant?
I think he's the best ball handler out of everybody you just said. So he's going to be there. And then, you're going to play your Levines at the 2. You're going to play your DeMar DeRozans at the 4. He's going to be doing a bit of facilitating.
Am I right? I mean, but what about, okay, you've got Ayo Dosunmu. You've got...
He's better than him.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'll back you
He's
in.
better than Ayo Dosunmu. If you're drafting Ayo Dosunmu, you're playing the wrong game.
Well, yeah. That's right. It's not 2K. I get it. But, yeah, all good. No, he's already probably the best point guard in the team. So, Beautiful. Love it. All right, we move on. Cavaliers re-signed Karis LeVert, 2 years, 32 million. Max Strus, big pickup, 4 years, 64 mil. George Niang, 3 years, 26. Ty Jerome, 2 years, 4.6. And then two much smaller players there. Thoughts on the Cavs and where their list is at?
Yeah, I like it. They needed, I suppose, to shoot some threes, so they went and got Niang and went and got Strus. But realistically, when is Niang going to play? He can't really play the three. What is he just going to be playing backup minutes? Is he going to try and fill that Lauri Markkanen role once they've moved him on? Mobley and Jared Allen, nobody's scoring on them. But how many times are you going to get when you're going to have your two, I suppose, superstar-ish guards out there, and you're going to have your two superstar-ish power forward and centers? I just wonder how much all these guys are going to play. Strus, I see him playing. He's going to stand in the corner and wait for it. But
absolutely.
Yeah, he's gonna knock down a lot of shots. I'm not going to reach for him because I don't know how many shots. But yeah, if he falls, he's somebody that's going to knock down threes, probably at a bad clip.
Is he starting at the three now? Is that where he starts? I mean, you got Garland, obviously, you got Mitchell. Does Strus go ahead? I mean, Isaac Okoro just hasn't stepped up yet. He just hasn't really grabbed it with two hands.
He doesn't offer enough on offense.
And I think you've got to do both ways, and I think Strus gives them that. But you're right, you can't reach. He's just going to do a role. Garland and Mitchell are filling the stats. Allen and Mobley need their scores. They need to be relevant. I think Strus's numbers possibly drop a little bit. I think he's got to take the defensive role. He's a straight up 3-and-D. And he's going to be better than the players that they've had in there before to do it. Does he become fantasy relevant? I don't know. Definitely don't reach. It's a no reach for me.
Probably not. But maybe if he's sitting there at 120, because I've had a little bit of an early look at my draft board. Maybe if he's sitting there at 120, I have a bit of a slap. I'm not touching Karis LeVert with a 10-foot pole. So
is he just six man? Six man is just going to come on, and is he not?
Is he even the sixth man? Like if you've got Niang that you've bought in because you wanted him. Yeah, not 100%. I actually think if Rubio gets injured, that maybe Karis LeVert plays a little bit of a ball playing role there.
Yeah, interesting. I'm just looking at their roster now. It's a stacked roster as well. They've got some serious depth. They should rise up again up on the boards for sure. Speaking of rising up and spending lots of dollars, the Boston Celtics, huge signage, obviously, of Kristaps Porzingis, 2 years, $60 million. They've brought in Brissett as well, 2 years, 4.6, which I actually think is a pretty good signing for that amount of money. And they've brought in Banton. Do you know who Banton is? I don't know if I heard of Banton. 2 years, 4.2 mil. The guy's loaded, and I've never heard of him. Fantastic. But what's your thoughts on KP? How does he slot in with Jaylen Brown and obviously Jason Tatum?
I suppose I had a chat with G about this, but I just want to throw it back at you. So you've given up Marcus Smart. You've picked up some picks. You've got to pay Kristaps Porzingis. Basically, the Wizards just wanted to not have to pay Porzingis. So they've got rid of him. They've collected Tyus Jones and then also taken on, I suppose, some cap fillers in like Gallinari and some blokes like that. Where do you rate that trade? Because I think Marcus Smart was a big presence in the locker room for the Celtics. Like he's been there. He's made the finals every year that he's played for the Celtics.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to deny presence is important. Presence is important, though, when you're still offering something on the court. And look, I mean, what's he offering? He's been Defensive Player of the Year, all those types of things. But I still rate like a Draymond Green over a Marcus Smart if we're going to talk about presence and also impact on court. So for me, they had to do something. If they made the decision that they're going to keep Jaylen Brown, which they obviously did, they signed him to the max. That was the decision they made. Right, wrong, that's not what we're going to discuss on this show. They had to make the call. KP's just come off one of the best years that he's ever had. Stats-wise, he's come off one of the best years he's ever had. Now, look, he's going to do a couple of things. One, he's going to sit out on the wing. He's going to be able to stretch the bigs and take them out with him. He's going to knock down the three, so he's going to open up lanes for Jaylen and Jason to do whatever the hell they want through those lanes. What he has to do, though, if that's going to make this right, he has to be there defensive. He has to take that defensive role. He has to be strong in the paint, get some boards, and be a presence on a defensive end. If he signs up for that, it's a great move. If he doesn't, it'll go to shit.
So last year, Kristaps Porzingis scored 23 and 9 with, I think, about 1.8 blocks a game.
Yep.
I would presume that he still plays that. He probably plays that Al Horford role, just younger, but a little bit better at this point in his career.
Yep.
This point of Al Horford's career, because like the guy's old enough to be my dad. That I think, that Kristaps could sort of pop in there and play that role a little bit better than him. But
Right.
Do you see that 23 and 9 with those blocks going up or down for the Celtics? Because I'm going to presume that his usage is going to go down.
His usage will go down. That's why I'm saying it's important. He has to take that anchor defensive role. He has to own it, claim it, and then he'll get his opportunities at the offensive end. But he's not. I don't think he's been brought in for that. He's been brought in to stretch it out. As you say, he's better than the grandpa. He's 7'3" rather than 6'9". He's 10 years younger than Al Horford. He'll shoot the three better and he'll stretch it out. But he has to sign up to take the defensive anchor role. If you're going to give up a defensive player of the year, albeit they're so different, we're talking a guard compared to a center, he has to own that role. And I think he will. I think he's signed up. I think he's going to be locked in. I think he's going to see an opportunity and he's going to grab it. So I think his blocks will go up. I think his boards will go up. His points will come down. But his field goal percentage could go up if he's used in the right way, for sure.
So he had an ADP of 46.
I think his 3 points made might go up, but his 3-point percentage might come down.
So he had an ADP of 46 last year playing for the Wizards. I think people are going to reach for him just because he's a Celtics player. I don't think blokes like you, myself, and fellas listening to this show, ladies listening to this show, are going to be taking him. Because I probably think that I would take him 55 to 60, and I don't think I'm going to be in too many comps where he's still there.
Yeah, I know we had a chat during the day about we need to disagree, and people love when people on these shows disagree, but I can't disagree with you on that one. You're spot on. So I think his ADP actually has to come down. I think it has, as in down, as in worse, lower. But I think people will reach. You're spot on because they're going to get all ramped up and excited about him. He's not going to get his offensive possessions. He's not going to get the touches as much. It's Tatum's team. It's Brown's to take over when he gets the opportunities. If you're going to look for offensive approach, you're not going to get it. No. And I don't think his percentages will increase that much to warrant it, to warrant the extra blocks and maybe the extra boards. But you're right. 55 for me, but I don't think you'll ever be there in any of the drafts you and I are in at that point. But that means cash for us.
So a bloke that is, I think, going to be undervalued this year, because I look at this depth chart, right? And I start to work out who is the best ball handler, who is the best passer on this team.
Cool.
And the Rhino, Derek White, the Great White Rhino, was drafted 135th overall on ESPN last year. The consensus across all leagues was 148. I just look at this now. Brogdon, he's got golfer's elbow or some injury like this that actually cuckolded them with a trade. They flipped it back. We ended up with Marcus Smart in Memphis because the Clippers, basically Brogdon didn't pass his medical. He could not even be playing this year. So Derek White, are you going to be looking at Peyton Pritchard? No, you're not. It's going to be Derek White, and he's the best ball handler. He's got Team USA experience. So if you look at last year in 28 minutes, he's got 12.4 points, shooting 46%, 38 from three, had some big moments, even in the playoffs, with just under 4 rebounds and just under 4 assists. So I think if he can get an extra 8 minutes, so you're looking at 1, 2, 3, so another 5th extra on the floor, if he's pushing 5 assists, 5 rebounds, if he starts to push 16 points, I think that he could be a steal in and around that 120.
Yeah, you're right. I think he has to be the starter. I don't think he gets those boards. I don't think he pushes his boards up. I think he might have got a few boards with effort, playing with the second unit a bit more last year and things like that. So I don't think he gets his boards. I think he's going to have to play some serious D as well. So I don't think he gets the boards. I think he stays out. But look, past 120, I think it's not a bad call. I'd probably steer clear. What do you then see? Is it Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum? Does KP play the 4? And does Robert Williams play the 5?
Yeah.
Is that how we see it?
That's the way that I see it. I see Al Horford probably playing the backup at each position because I think Grant Williams will get moved.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think, when you're looking at Celtics, I just think Grant Williams is going to get moved. They're not going to pay him. Brogdon's probably not going to play. And then you're going to have blokes like O'Shea, Brissett, and everything like that. They're going to be leaning on Derek White because Peyton Pritchard isn't the answer. He's going to have to play a lot of minutes.
I don't mind the Brissett signing. I think that's going to help them a lot. I think you're spot on. I think he then slots into that second unit and does a decent job for sure. I think you're spot on. Yeah. Brogdon getting played $22.6 million to basically do nothing is outrageous. Outrageous.
Yeah. It's hard when you're injured. They signed him thinking that he was actually going to play. So
yeah, we move on. We move on, and we're going to be here till 1 a.m. It's good chat, but great chat. Clippers, Russell Westbrook, 2 years, $8 million.
Hate it.
So, where does he sit? Look, let's be honest. We have to talk about Russell Westbrook quickly, though, because fantasy relevancy, he continues to still pad the stats. Does he do it again? And at what point are you taking him?
I'm not. So what I did last year is I'm really big on ESPN. So they have a little button that you can press and then you can remove him. That's what I did last year because I didn't want to be tempted with the last pick or anything like that. He ended up getting taken something ridiculous, like 40th. I think on ESPN, he was average 73 and that was overdrafted. Look, I won't be touching him in 12-team leagues.
Just for shits and giggles, how many triple doubles does he get?
Oh, I don't know. 8.
It's not bad. It's not bad. That sometimes can be the difference between winning 8 weeks or not.
Yeah, I think most comps won't have triple doubles as an option. So
they're cool. They're cool. We move on. Grizzlies, your boys. Desmond Bain, you got to be loving that. 5 years, 205 mil. Well done. Deserves his cash. Derrick Rose, 2 years, 6.5 mil. Can't be hating on that either.
No. So I think we got a couple locker room guys. I think we've went and got Marcus Smart, which love or hate Dylan Brooks. He was a bit of a leader for us. Whether it was a good thing or whether it was a bad thing. Like you watch any of our pregame shows, what did we have? We had blokes like Dylan Brooks leading the chant. Look, he did try to take it to LeBron. Did it backfire? Yes. Did it cost him his job? Probably. But I think now we've got Marcus Smart to probably be our number 2 once Ja Morant comes back. We've got Derrick Rose, I suppose, to be a backup throughout the year. He's cheaper than Tyus Jones, and we've got Marcus Smart to slot in there. We've got a lot of 3-point shooters. And then we've got the 2 most recent defensive players of the year. So you want defensive stats, you want steals and blocks, you start to look at the Grizzlies.
Yep. Yeah.
Where do you draft Ja Morant? Because he's going to be out for 25 weeks. He is not going to get the IR tab. So you can't just put him in your IR.
No. Then for me, I can't do it. I think he's a no pickup for me. You think about if you can't put the IR tab on him and put him in down the bottom, and you can't cover that. You cannot cover that, in my opinion. So as sad as it may sound, it'll be a battle for. I'll be intrigued to see. I think the person who picks him will give up after, especially if they go 0-3 in the first 3 weeks. They have to just give in. But then again, what are you dropping him for? Nothing. Or you try and trade, or you drop him, and then everyone's like waiting for like. At what point? It's like just like a share trade thing, buy or sell. Like, what are you doing? But I don't know. For me, it's a leave alone. I want to feel my team. I got absolutely screwed with Chris Middleton last year. being supposedly 3 weeks, and then the guy didn't play for like 5 months. So, and it just screwed me. I was stuffed. I had probably one of the predictors to go really well last year in one of my leagues, and it absolutely destroyed me. You can't carry a non-player, in my opinion.
I think you can, as long as you have. So you're going to get a bump from a bloke like Marcus Smart while you have him. You have to be really confident in your abilities, though. You have to be really ballsy. And I think I might be ballsy enough to take him.
We got our first disagree, which is good. So there we go. I think you're stupid. I think you're stupid, but you play in enough goddamn leagues that you'll do it in 2 of them to see how it goes. And then you'll just delete app on those leagues and focus on the other one. That's my opinion.
Let's move on to the next team.
What the hell is going on in Atlanta? What the hell? What the hell's going on with the Hawks? Is absolutely nothing. Is Trey going to be there? Is Trey playing? Is he going to be in Atlanta?
No, I don't think so.
Hold on. So if you're saying they're looking at possibly moving their franchise player, which I get it, but unless they're actually getting something to completely fill their roster, they haven't gone and made any free agency moves to build something around what they could possibly get. Surely they've got 14 offers sitting on their doorstep for them to go, all right, cool, this is the best one. Let's maybe go and we need to grab a couple of extra pieces to make sure that this makes sense.
It's hard. I think he gets moved. I think the experiment of him and DeJounte Murray is over. So I took DeJounte Murray at 20 in a lot of leagues last year, and I got absolutely burnt. Got a bit lucky. Absolutely got destroyed in a league where I took DeJounte Murray at 20 and Cade Cunningham with my next pick. But look, I like his defensive stats. I just think, yeah, he's gone. They can't keep Trae Young on this team. But as a fantasy player, I don't care where Trae Young goes. I think he's top 20.
Yeah, no, spot on. So then here's my question to you. If let's say he's not moved before week 1, right? Do you take the chance on a DeJounte Murray with a likelihood that Trae may get moved at some point?
No. Okay. I take Trae Young hoping that he gets to a team where he probably has to do a little bit more. I would take Trae Young. I wouldn't take DeJounte Murray expecting Trae to get moved. I'd probably still take DeJounte Murray 30th.
Yep.
Yeah, I would.
Right. Miami Heat, Josh Richardson, 2 years, 5.9. Kevin Love, 2 years, 7.6. Love that. Thomas Bryant, 2 years, 5.4. Don't mind that. Orlando Robinson, 1 year, 1.8. And then a few other non-names. How's the Miami Heat looking? And is D. Lillard heading to the Heat?
Yeah, look, we're going to know where Lillard is by the time draft comps come around. I don't like Jimmy Butler in fantasy because at his age, they rest him a lot.
Yep.
And Miami have, I suppose, championship aspirations. They got really close last year. But I really like Bam.
I feel like Miami Heat are going to try and do what the Clippers have tried to do, but they're going to do it right. So they'll rest their players when they need to, but they'll actually have great success doing it where the Clippers weren't able to pull it off. They'll have enough to go. And I think you're spot on. And I think that's where like a Bam Adebayo really does step up because he'll play more times than not, where the Butlers and Lillard might be in and out, but they'll make sure that they are primed and ready to hit the playoffs where they need to. And look, mate, I mean, look at what they did from where they finished this year. Do you know what I mean? Yep. So I think you're spot on. I think you got to be very wary of Heat players. And the only one that I'd probably really look at is like a Bam Adebayo for sure.
Yeah, so he played 35 minutes a night, went and got 20 and 9 with 3 assists, a couple of steals, just really shot at 54%. I wonder if you pair a guy like Bam with a Giannis or somebody like that, you're off to a really good start. I think they really complement each other as a pair when you're drafting because they've both got high field goal percentage. I actually thought that so the Heat were rumored to be, I suppose, going after Brook Lopez. I actually thought Bam might have basically played a Giannis role this year.
Yeah. It's a good shout. So we're talking 12-man team. So you get Giannis, pick 4, comes back around the second round, Bam Adebayo. It's not a bad linkage. Spot on.
Probably the third round. So he had an ADP of 27. So you take Giannis at 4. You're taking another bloke a bit later on. What are you taking? A 16th pick? Are you taking 16th pick then? No, you're going further around again.
Further down. You're nearly like 20, 21. Yep.
Yeah, I don't mind Bam there. And if he slides definitely on the turn there. Maybe just
I think he goes about there. I think he goes about there for exactly what we're saying. I think silly people will pick Lillard still too early. I think that'll be a silly pick this year to take Lillard too early, for sure, in my opinion. Hornets, LaMelo Ball, 5 years, getting paid $260 million, and Miles Bridges, 1 year, 7.9. How's things looking out in Charlotte?
I'm not going to touch Miles Bridges too much from a good bloke situation, but I'd probably touch him from a fantasy point because I think people are going to sleep on him. So if you look at ESPN's at the moment, he's sitting there at 250 odd. We just saw him be a really good player when he did play. I don't condone anything that he's done. Shit bloke. This was sort of best case scenario for the Charlotte Hornets because they didn't have to offer him a contract. He just picked up his contract. Basically, nobody would have offered him anything by the sounds of it because as a player, he's probably worth more than $7.9 million. I suppose it's sort of sitting there late round, having a bit of a punt at him, hoping that he gets back to, I suppose, he was borderline all-star.
Yeah.
He was borderline all-star, and we're talking about him maybe being available at 120. That's something that I have a punt on.
They had a good thing going on. Absolutely. They had a good thing going on. I mean, I look at this roster, I go, who's fantasy relevant? Like, where are you taking a LaMelo Ball? Like, where does he sit for you on ADP?
9th. I know that's very specific.
I love it. I love it. That's what the people are listening for, mate. That's exactly what the people are listening for. I love that.
No, I had a.
You're the guy who goes, "I'll be there in 7 minutes. I'll see you."
I'm really not. I'll have already had 12 beers, and I'll end up taking Damian Lillard when I'm.
I'll be there in 5, but I can still hear the shower in the background.
Yeah. Look, he had an ADP of, I suppose, 11 on Yahoo, 6 on ESPN. I think that I would take him at 9th.
Yep.
Would you take Tyrese Halliburton or him? Because that's my comparison. Yeah, right.
I loved having Hallie last year. I'm not going to lie. I loved having Hallie. It was one of those ones where I actually wasn't sure about. I'm going to be honest. I hadn't actually watched him play that much basketball. And I hate picking players in any fantasy sport competition that I'm playing that I haven't watched. And you're just picking off stats and what you hear and the vibe and the ADP. But I had one league where I took him and I enjoyed watching him play. But I have to go him again. I actually really enjoyed Hallie, but I think this is actually LaMelo's year to break out a bit more. So I'm going to take LaMelo over Hallie this year.
Me too. That's where I sit because that's sort of where I was sitting. Like you've got blokes on ESPN's board, like Steph Curry in and around there. I'd take both of these young, and I'm not a big fan of taking young people. I just want to get the proven quantity. But I think Steph Curry's and your Lillards and those sorts of guys, I'll let other people make that mistake. I'd probably just go with somebody like Hallie or LaMelo in and around that 9 to 11.
Yeah, I've talked a lot about this on other podcasts, and we'll move on because I know we've got more teams to get through. But there comes a point where we look at our own age and we go, we have to start getting the next generation of players. You have to start going, you know what? Lillard's as great as he is, averaging 32 points and the things like that. There comes a point where you go, you've got to look to the next generation. Don't go the massive reach and be like, you're not picking the team for your fantasy draft in NBA 2K that you're going to play 5 seasons in 2 weeks. But you have to look to the next generation and when are they going to take over? And you're right, LaMelo Ball, Tyrese Halliburton. I'm not saying they're better than Steph Curry, but there comes a point where you got to start picking them from a fantasy aspect.
And they're going to play more. I hope that I would take a guess that they're going to play more games than Steph Curry and Damian Lillard as well.
Cool. If our comments don't light up about that, there's going to be some Steph Curry people like, don't be stupid, take him number 3. Let's go. And you might be right. Hit us up. We love it.
They honestly, Golden State Warriors went and got Curry insurance in Chris Paul. So what do they think?
Yeah, spot on. Jordan Clarkson, 3 years, $55 million at the Jazz. Are they relevant enough to talk about?
Lauri Markkanen is.
Oh, very good call. Well played, sir.
Yeah, Lauri Markkanen is fantasy relevant. Walker Kessler.
Oof. Do you know what? I haven't watched him play enough, so I'm going to lean to you on that one. But I've heard a lot about him, but yeah, what number? Where do you see him falling? Where would you take him?
I think if you miss out on one of those premier guys, and you find yourself just wanting some blocks, he's basically a Rudy Gobert that plays every game.
Okay.
So if Rudy Gobert and Walker Kessler are sitting there, I'm taking Walker Kessler. Nobody else is going to.
They've got Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, Lauri Markkanen, John Collins now, and then Walker Kessler. And then you go to like Chris Dunn, you got THT. They don't have much else, do they? So it's not a bad shout.
Yeah, so Walker Kessler doesn't get very involved in offense, I suppose. So he is going to go at a really high clip defensively. So he's going to go get 10 rebounds a game. He's going to get no assists. He's going to go get some blocks. Look, he's just the guy that you want.
Oh, so did you give a number? I wasn't sure. Did you give a number? I've had a couple of standard squeezes. Where'd you see him falling?
I did say 50th, but looking at his stats, I think I might be reaching a little bit. It might be more like 70th. Because what else do you have? Like in your centers, they're all gonna go early. And I suppose as soon as you KPs, I'm presuming that he's going to go in around that 35 because people love watching Boston games. And as soon as you start missing out on guys like Miles Turner, it's going to be blokes like Yusuf Nurkic. Well, the guy never plays because he's always injured. You're going to be looking for, I suppose, these sleeper sort of guys, like your Jalen Durans if you're looking for a bloke at 130. I think Walker Kessler is going to be definitely a top 80 guy this year.
But that's what I'm saying. So don't reach for 50. If they're off the board and the center's off the board and you haven't even got one, you're going to get them at 70 because everybody else has to fill the other areas. Go and make sure you fill up the stats. Know what numbers you're looking for. And when your Lopez's, your Kesslers, like which type are you taking to make sure it fits what you grabbed early on? Spot on.
Yeah.
Dare we say, light the beam. He knows who I'm referring to. So we got to give him a shout out. Our boy Justin. The Kings are surging. And look at the names that they've got on their board. They've got Sabonis to 5 years, $217 million. Harrison Barnes, 3 years, 54. Trey Lyles, 2 years at $16 million. Alex Len, 1 year, 3.2. Sasha Vesnikov. Do you know him? 3 years, $20 million.
No, it sounds like Sasha Vucevic, but it's not.
Yeah. The guy's getting paid. It's not bad. 3 years, $20 million.
I suppose their big move was holding on to Sabonis. Well, actually, they just reviewed it and paid him more. So I don't really know why they bothered to do it. But they're keeping their boy happy and they are... I don't know. They're keeping their boy happy and they're keeping him.
He's very fantasy relevant for sure.
Yeah. I think he could go sort of that 14 sort of range.
Yeah.
12 range.
I like him. I take him early when it comes to fantasy. I'm definitely looking. It's one of those, you don't want to reach too big. There's always some names on there, but his name comes off the board early and you're kind of like, ooh, and then you're like, but then he just goes and puts up good numbers. Have you got his numbers? You got his stats from last year? I'll talk to their depth chart if you happen to have it in front of you. I mean, it's a good lineup. They got Fox, Herter, Barnes, Keegan Murray, and that we maybe need to talk about Keegan Murray a little bit. Then you got Sabonis, and then in the second line you've got Davion Mitchell, Malik Monk, Kessler Edwards. This is where their Sasha Vencikov comes in. They've got him listed as their second PF, and then Alex Len as their second center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we're going back, I I was getting all hot and heavy over De'Aaron Fox. But
Big fan.
Sabonis went 19, 12, and 7 last year.
What percentage?
So he was a top 5. He was a top 5 in if you're paying 9 cat, he was a top 5 guy last year. I don't think he gets any better than that. But he shoots at 37%, doesn't ruin you with his free throw percentage. There's really no downsides to having Sabonis. They're paying him the big bucks. So I suppose in the top 30, probably in your top 23, you're going to be talking about Sabonis and Fox.
You're taking Sabonis before Bam Adebayo.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. But we were talking Bam at like 20 odd.
Yeah, true.
We're talking Sabonis at 12.
Yep.
I also think there's a conversation as to, and it's going to depend on your first couple picks, on Fox over Bam.
Oof.
They're similar sort of. I expect them to go nearly
Anthony Davis before Sabonis.
I take Sabonis before Anthony
I
Davis,
agree.
100% every day of the week.
Man, we're meant to be arguing. Meant to be giving the people what they want. Anyways, I agree. We move on. Knicks getting Dante DiVincenzo, 4 years, $50 million. He kind of looks good in a Knicks jersey, I reckon.
Yeah, that's about where it stops for me.
It's a lot of cash. What does he really give you?
Defensive hype. He can dunk. That's really good.
Yeah, so can. What was that? What's the young fella's name? He won the dunk contest. So can he? Yeah, Knicks, man. Knicks. Surely, Brunson, Grimes, Barrett, Randall, Mitch Robinson, DiVincenzo moves into the second lineup with Josh Hart.
They just paid DiVincenzo this money after he averaged 9, 4, and 3. I don't get it. It's a very Knicks move.
It's a very Knicks move. That's a great call. We move on to a team that is, my boys, who I think have done well. I think for once in their life, they're finally grabbing some youth. They're finally making some smart decisions. Yeah, but let's analyze it. Austin Reeves coming back, 4 years, 56 mil. Rui Hachimura, 3 years, 51. A little bit overs in my opinion, but don't mind him being on the list. D'Lo, 2 years, 37. I want to talk about him for sure. Gabe Vincent, I like this one, 3 years, 33. Prince, 1 year at 4.5. Cam Reddish, I'm loving it, 2 years, 4.6. And Jackson Hayes, 2 years at 4.6 as well. I think they've won free agency. I've got purple and gold running through my veins, but I think they've won free agency.
Oh, look, I don't think I'd go that far, but they did all right. I think that they overpaid Rui Hachimura. For starters, I think that they probably had to pay Austin Reeves the money. I think he'll be good. I think that they got a bit of a discount on Gabe Vincent. And I think Cam Reddish and Taurean Prince were, I suppose, worthy dart throws to see if you can get some relevance out of them. I like Jackson Hayes as a backup over, Tommy Bryant last year. I suppose it's going to come back to, are they healthy? So where are you going to start to say, I don't see D'Angelo Russell being any better than he's been. I see Austin Reeves probably taking a few leaps forward, and I see Gabe Vincent doing okay, maybe a late round guy. But realistically, you're going to be looking at LeBron. Where do you take him? You're going to be looking at Anthony Davis. I just don't know if I see anybody's numbers get elevated by these other guys.
No.
I never
draft them. I never draft any Lakers players because I just want to sit down and watch them play. Plus, I also they just, Anthony Davis doesn't take the game by the scruff of the neck enough. LeBron James doesn't finish the fourth quarters enough. As much as I don't like him as a person, I would have liked to have seen them bring maybe a Kyrie Irving because he's the guy that can take the game in the fourth quarter, which is what we need. LeBron passes in the fourth quarter every day of the week. Yeah. Anthony Davis is injured by the fourth quarter. So you look at those games where we did well. They relied on Rui Hachimura hitting big fourth quarter shots. D'Lo hit the 3-pointer against your boys in the playoffs to kind of go through to that next round. Do you know what I mean? They rely on the other guys hitting the shots. Austin Reeves gives effort, which I like. I really do like the Cam Reddish signing. I think it's nice. It's not fantasy relevant at all, but I do like the signage. But yeah, I'm not touching any of them. I'm not touching any of them. I really do like the D'Lo pick. When we realize we're not going to go after Kyrie Irving, I think he gets a little bit too much hass, and I think he's a solid pickup. I think he'll do the job that we need. But we move on.
So I wouldn't actually mind getting him. So he had an ADP of about 70 last year, and I think he's probably pretty good value in and around there, because once those top tier point guards, they start to dry up, and like you're going to be looking at, I suppose, your Tyus Jones and blokes like that. Maybe people overlook D'Angelo Russell because he does hit threes at a good clip. He does get some assists. He does some dumb shit. He is annoying to watch. But from a fantasy standpoint, if you can get him in and around that 80 or 90, I think that he's pretty good value. Where do you take LeBron?
Man, I'm really intrigued. When he came out and said, I'm going to wait and see, it wouldn't have shocked me if he rested this year. It wouldn't have shocked me if he rested this year and then he found a way to sort of just come back again. And when the draft happened and went from that point of view and just came back in with his son, it wouldn't have shocked me at all. Shocked me in any way, shape, or form if he just kind of sat out the year, came back in when Bronny James was drafted. So I think he's going to rest himself a bit this year. I'm not touching him. But if he's sitting there past 10, it's hard not to. It's hard not to.
Like he had an ADP on Yahoo of 15. I don't think I'd touch him till 20.
Okay.
Move on.
Yeah, we move on. Good call. Magic. We love seeing this. Joe Ingles getting paid 2 years, $22 million. Love seeing him on the Orlando Magic roster. I think he's exactly the type of player they need. And Mo Wagner with 2 years, $16 million.
Yeah, I don't know if Joe Ingles is exactly what they need, but they have him now. He's sort of like an old Franz Wagner.
I just think you got to look at it and go, you're talking about presence before. He brings presence. Do you know what I want to see them do? They've got to put the ball in his hands like he had the ball in his hands at Utah. They've got to let him play the pick and roll. They've got to let him play a bit of two-man ball. They've got to let him do that thing, and they've got to let him lead the team. I'm not talking about leading the team on the court. I'm talking about leading the team off the court. But put the ball back in his hand, let him do his thing. He's going to knock down some threes, and I think he's going to help some of the young boys on that roster. Yeah,
so my concern with this team is they've got about 47 fucking point guards. So they've got so let me run through. They've drafted Anthony Black. They've got Markelle Fultz, former number 1 pick. They've got Jalen Suggs, who they took really high. They've got Cole Anthony, who they've also taken really high. And then we're talking about Joe Ingles getting, I suppose, the ball and playing the pick and roll. Like, they need to make a trade. They need to move these guys and get, I suppose, a decent sort of center and another really good backup small forward. Because all these guys, basically everybody that they're playing, except for Paolo Banchero and Wendell Carter Jr., play exactly the same position. You can't have 5 point guards on the court.
No. Yeah.
So that means like, so I would usually take a bloke like Suggs really late. I've picked up Markelle Fultz in the past because I really, we talk about those really big guys that get assists, still get rebounds from the point guard. He shoots really poorly. So if you're tanking, field goal percentage and tanking free throw percentage and tanking 3-point percentage, then he's pretty perfect for you. Cole Anthony can be a really spark, but I can't touch any of these point guards that I would usually touch because there is too many of them. The only guy that I'd really take is Wendell Carter Jr. And again, he's one of those blokes that you're going to be taking when Walker Kessler's come up in conversation. Yeah. When blokes like, I don't know, Yusuf Nurkic has come up in conversation. So you miss out on all the big guns. You're going to be looking for someone like Wendell Carter Jr., maybe with the 80th or the 90th pick. Apart from that, I am staying out of Disneyland.
Yeah, he's relevant. Disney World, mate. Get it right. He's relevant enough. He's relevant enough, WCJ, for sure. I think without like Mo Bamba being there anymore, and they're wondering whether they kept flicking between the two of them of who was actually going to start, those types of things. I think he knows he's the guy. He's a 10-10 type guy. But you're right. It's going to come up in that conversation. We move on. We're 54 minutes in and we're halfway. So we're going to up the speed a little bit here. We might even have to give a shout out to Nathan Brain to split this up into 2 episodes, but we truck on. The board is huge. We've got lots to talk about. Mavericks, Kyrie Irving, 3 years, 126 mil. Dwight Powell, 3 years, 12 mil. Seth Curry, 2 years, 9.2. And Dante Exum getting the 1 year, 2.7. How are you seeing things in Dallas?
Yeah, I really like it. I think it's hard. It might knock Luka from a points league down from maybe the second guy to maybe the fifth guy, getting Kyrie Irving back. I like the defensive presence of getting someone like Dante Exum. Seth Curry's like a good version of Tim Hardaway Jr. on his team. Rashawn Holmes is, I suppose, are better than a lot of the centers that they've had. It'll be interesting to see probably the battle between Rashawn Holmes and Christian Wood. I think people will reach for Christian Wood because of what he's been when he played for the Rockets, but I think people will be sleeping on Rashawn Holmes.
Yeah, I think it's spot on. I'll give the most unpopular opinion of all time. I don't think Doncic ever wins an NBA championship because I don't think Doncic makes anyone better. Yep. So Kyrie Irving is actually the perfect signing because Kyrie Irving doesn't need anyone to make him better. Give me the ball, let me do my thing. Doncic doesn't make anyone better. He's a bona fide superstar. The guy is elite. Let's not question that in any way, shape, or form. But even you go back to when they played against the Boomers, when he was on the bench, they started to come back. When he going back on the court, the Boomers stretched it out. They took the bronze medal, said, peace, see you later. He's great, but he doesn't make anyone better. He didn't make KP better. He doesn't make anyone better. So you've nearly got to bring in the Kyrie Irving to go, all right, it's your turn, it's my turn, it's your turn, it's my turn, and hopefully it all comes together. But he's just not an NBA championship player because he doesn't know how to make players better. Michael Jordan had to learn how to make people better. Kobe Bryant made people better. If you talk about the LeBron James, bloody took a Cleveland Cavaliers team to a list that had nobody. So they find ways to make people better and get them paid. Doncic actually just gets people pissed off and they decide to leave.
Which is perfect for fantasy.
Spot on. He is fantasy royalty. Like let's not. I don't think Kyrie Irving even takes him from number 2 to number 5. It keeps him at number 2. Absolutely, you're picking the guy.
I just think maybe Kyrie's ADP last year on ESPN was 28. I just think him coming back. I think that he could probably be a top 20 guy again, but I also think Luka can be a top 20 guy. And I think everybody else on their team, except for whoever wins between Rashawn and Christian Wood, are just daily streamers.
Yeah, spot on. I think Kyrie Irving, I think everybody just gets worried that he's just going to go off to La La Land and you never know where he's going to be. But when you see that he's playing, his numbers are off the charts. They're good.
Yeah.
Nets, Cam Johnson, 4 years, 108 million. Oh my God, what it means to be tall and be able to shoot a basketball, to just be able to get paid. Dennis Smith Jr., 1 year, 2.5. Lonnie Walker, mate, loved him at the Lakers. 1 year, 2.3. What's going on in Brooklyn?
Look, I'm actually really excited for Brooklyn. I will be picking up some Brooklyn Nets this year.
Who are you picking up?
I'd take Cam Johnson. Look, I'd take. I love Mikal Bridges's.
It's
Michelle
tough.
Bridge.
I know what you're doing there. Say it with confidence. Bridges. Let's do it. We'll play on.
Yeah, I'm rolling with it. I like Nick Claxton. I like Mikal Bridge. I like Cam Thomas. And I think that and Cam Johnson. Sorry, both Cams. So I think Cam Thomas can be a spark that you get towards the end of the draft. I think Cam Johnson is undervalued. I actually picked him up last year, thinking he was going to have a breakout year with the Suns. Sort of didn't happen. But Mikal Bridge I can probably see being a top 30 guy. I don't draft him in the top 30, but I can see him being a top 30 guy this year.
Are they any chance to land Damian Lillard? Because they are very much in the conversation, and they're looking at giving away Ben Simmons, Cam Thomas, future first rounders. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, look, it's hard. I don't think they have a young, as long as they keep Bridges, I don't think they have a young enough piece to entice Portland into actually saying yes. I think Tyler Hero is the best young talent that has been talked about in Damian Lillard trades. And I think that is what you take. I think he fits really well with Scoot as well. I can see Tyler Hero wearing a Portland jersey. I can't see any of these other guys.
No, good call. Good shout. The reigning champs, Denver Nuggets, still partying as we speak. Reggie Jackson, 2 years, $10 million. DeAndre Jordan, 1 year, 3.2. And Justin Holiday, 1 year, 3.2.
I hate that. I think
Which
Denver
one?
Nuggets
You hate?
have.
You just
hate
what they've done.
I think Denver Nuggets have won the championship and got worse.
I don't think
honestly,
I don't think Jokic gives a shit if he ever wins one again. That's what I saw at the end of it all.
Yeah, I think like they've sort of lost their guy in Bruce Brown, and we'll talk about that. And maybe it's not fantasy relevant. I've always liked Jamal Murray. I've probably taken him too often in other years. And I've got Michael Porter Jr. in some deep leagues. Look, I'm going to be staying. If I don't get Jokic or Murray, probably in and around that 40 to 50 mark, I don't think I am touching any of these guys.
Is Jokic still number one?
Yep, 100%. Lock it in, Eddie. By a country mile. It's not even a conversation with anyone else.
He makes me nervous now. Like, I'm not going to lie. He makes me nervous. After just seeing him winning a championship and just like not realizing what you're even meant to do with a champagne bottle, like it makes me nervous. Like, does he actually even care? But maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that just means he'll just continue to do what he's doing and truck on. But yeah, I don't know. Surely there's got to be some bit of a championship hangover. But does it affect his fantasy relevancy? I don't know.
So over the regular season,
I kind of don't want the number one pick just for that reason.
No, I want the number one pick. Over the regular season, put this into perspective: 24.5 points, 9.8 assists, 11.8 rebounds, shooting 38% from three with 82% free throw percentage and 63% field goal percentage. So I always talk about getting guys that you can tank. Honestly, you've just got a point guard, a center, a guy that shoots really good threes, a guy that doesn't turn the ball over very much, all in your first pick. He is the perfect fantasy player, and I would give up nearly my second and fourth pick for Jokic every year.
Whew. Well, we will see. Let's mark this. What do we got? 1 hour, 2 minutes. We'll mark this point down. I'm not denying that he is number one ADP. But I'm saying his numbers will drop. That's what I'm going with. We move on. Indiana Pacers, Bruce Brown, 2 years, $45 million. And the guy we'll talk about, Halliburton, 5 years, $260, getting paid again. Pacers?
Yeah. So I was really excited about blokes like Andrew Nembhard because I just thought that they'd sleep. I've actually picked him up in a couple leagues towards the end of the season, and he did really well for me. I suppose the fact that Nembhard, Bruce Brown, Buddy Hield, Benedict Mathurin are all kind of the same person is a bit of a concern when basically Tyrese Halliburton has the keys to the city and Miles Turner is their second best player. I suppose all those other guys are blokes that you can take after 90, after 100, having a really good punt. But Miles Turner, I just think he is a bona fide star at center. Yeah, absolutely love it. I just love the threes. I love the blocks. I think for fantasy, like you can basically tie him with anyone and he makes your fantasy team better. Where do you take him is a bit of a question mark. I saw him getting taken in the 20s in a lot of comps, and I'm in some pretty high tier comps, but his ADP on other leagues were in and around, and it surprised me when I had a look. 39 with Yahoo and 68 on ESPN. So if you're playing in some leagues just with some mates and you've been looking, trying to get a leg up, if he's there at 50, 100% take him. You will nearly win your league because I have seen people win comps taking him top 30.
I reckon if you get him at 50, you're sitting there with a hard on for the whole season. When you get him at 30,
a James Harden.
When you get him in the 30s, he's disappointing because he's an absolute roller coaster. He's an absolute roller coaster. And if you're like having one of those NBA Wednesdays where you're like picking the roster and you've got like everybody to pick from your bench, and you're like, it does your head in. When you don't have a choice and he's on your roster, you're stoked. You're like, cool, whatever comes. But man, he annoys the shit out of you, because when you make a choice and you put him on, he lets you down. But he's a gun. You've got him in a certain place, you're going to pick him. I want to talk about Halliburton though. 20 points, 10 assists, 49% field goal, 40% from three, 87% from free throw, 1.6 steals. Is he still putting up double-digit assist numbers? That was off the charts last year.
I think he can. I think he's that talented.
Simple as that. Let's just move on.
Yeah. Look, it's hard to like. I've got him at 9. He's probably going to be a top 15 guy, regardless. I think the Pacers got better with all the guys that they've got. It can't get much worse for him. Yeah. Sign me up on Tyrese Halliburton.
I've known you for a couple of years now, mate. That was the shortest answer you've ever given me for any question I've ever asked you. But I like
Can
it.
He get it? Can he?
The only one that was shorter was LaMelo Ball. Where are you picking him? 9. Okay, move on. We move on to the Pelicans. Herb Jones, 4 years, 54 mil. Cody Zeller, 1 year, 3.2. What is going on in New Orleans? And, mate, should we be booking a trip? Because it looks like they're having a hell of a time.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I'm actually pretty excited for it, because I think people will undervalue Zion because of his personal issues. That won't affect him on the basketball court.
No.
He's getting, you know what? He's getting rub downs. He is living his best life. Look, Zion is a bona fide star, like generational talent. I am still going to be targeting Zion in my leagues. I've always loved Val, but I found last year people started to take him earlier. Like, I've always found I could get Val at a steal. People started taking him a lot earlier last year.
Yeah, mate, he put up some good numbers last year. I think his boards were off the charts. I don't have it in front of me right now, but his boards were off the charts. I probably should be able to click on him. His boards were off the charts. He started to shoot a couple of threes as well, which was nice to see. I think Zion steps up. I think Brandon Ingram continues to have a big year again as well. It's a tricky one when you have people like CJ. Like, CJ can just like take the ball and just like have a bit of a run and go nuts. But Brandon Ingram, Zion Williams, I think it's their year. If they're going to do anything in New Orleans, those two have to be the players. But
really, yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, you go.
They're really top heavy. Like, so there's 4 guys that you could take, and 4 guys that you could probably take comfortably top 60. And then you start to look if there's any value. And I don't see it. Like, Herb Jones, people were taking him 80s, 90s, 100s last year. He's a nuffy. Yeah. Dyson Daniels. Yeah, not yet. And he's somebody that I'll earmark. Even Trey Murphy. I just think all these guys are such high usage guys that even their second unit isn't really going to be a second unit. It's just going to be a splattering of these starters. And, you know, Brandon Ingram's just going to take over when CJ and Zion have a rest, et cetera, et cetera. I think that you've got some really high usage guys that you want on your team, but everybody else don't touch with a 10-foot pole.
So J-Val went 14 points, 10 rebounds, 1.8 assists at a 54.7% field goal percentage.
Yeah, love it.
Did he repeat?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's done it for years. But yeah, like, I've always been able to get him in like the 60s and the 70s when he played for the Grizzlies. And now I suppose everybody's watching Zion games. It's all fantastic. He's getting drafted like in the 50s or early 50s or late 40s. I even saw last year. Yeah, not enough value there for me.
Last question, we move on. Zion, what's his ADP for you?
28.
Ooh. 26.7 rebounds, 4.6 assists, and nearly 61% field goal percentage. I tell you what, you've got to watch him, and sometimes you just got to take a risk. I agree.
Yep.
Like, it could be his year to break out. Pistons, no major signings. What's going on in Detroit?
They're not going to be good again this year.
Man, they got unlucky with the lottery balls. Far out.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. Look, I just wonder, like, how long can you start doing? They did, like, they went and got Morris and just started taking guys contracts for picks again. Like, they've been doing that as long as I can remember, like maybe the last 5 years. They just
Yep.
keep pushing back their window and like something's got to give. They're another one of those teams that have about 47 point guards, which is really going to annoy me because I want Cade, but I just think that maybe they don't play Killian Hayes. I just think maybe they don't play Monte Morris very much. I just don't think that they play. Look, Jaden Ivey's probably going to start at the shooting guard, but I think maybe Joe Harris just gets waived. They took him from Brooklyn. Brooklyn are trying to clear some cap space for Lillard. So
does Thompson start? Or do you play like a Bogdanovic and a Joe Harris at the 3-4 just to stretch the field for to stretch the court for a Cade Cunningham?
I actually think they play Bogdanovic in like a Laurie Markkinen at the 3 kind of role. I think that they find some space for maybe Jameis Wiseman, maybe Jalen Duren, and I think that they give Bagels a bit of a run. He was pretty good for him last year. Put up some empty numbers on a shit team. So yeah, always love that.
I feel like this is where, like, because you mentioned Duren before. I feel like I'm just having a look at it and tell me if some of these guys aren't on the list anymore. Tell me I'm not up with my Detroit Pistons. I'm not going to lie. So you got Wiseman, Duren, Bags, and you've got, is Isaiah Stewart still on their list as well?
Yeah, and Isaiah Livers, who's like a good version of Stewart.
I mean, it's like 5 guys that you feel like any one of them could be their chosen starter. Any one of them could be on their second list. Therefore you just put a line through all of them?
Yeah. Look, they went from having 47 point guards to having 47 centers, and they don't have like I hate it. I absolutely hate what they're doing here. I think like the fact that nobody watches the Detroit Pistons. A couple of not last year, the year before, I was probably the only guy in Australia watching Grizzlies games, right? So you got to the second game, and I picked up one Desmond Bain in a league that went 200 deep off waivers.
Wow.
Won the comp. So I feel like as if you watch the Detroit Pistons,
just throw that in there, mate. Well done. Very good.
Yeah,
very good.
yeah. I only made 13 trades, ins and outs, waiver picks, anything all year. So I think if you watch Detroit Pistons in those first couple games, you're going to get a bit of an idea as to how that they're going to play it. Whether Killian Hayes is a basketball player anymore, whether Joe Harris is going to get any minutes, whether Alec Burks is going to get any minutes. If you start like Jaden Ivey's a serviceable player. Cade Cunningham could be a superstar in the future. Asar Thompson is a superstar in the future. But maybe they just run through someone stupid like Marvin Bagley or do something like that. And you can get a real steal off waivers. So I think it's really important to watch Pistons games because nobody else will.
Yeah, nice. Good call. 9 teams to go. Let's push through. Raptors, Pirtle at 4 years on 80 mil. Dennis Schroeder on 2 years on 26. And Jalen McDaniels, 2 years, 9.3. What's going up in Canada, eh?
I hate what they've done.
Yeah, me too. Hate it. Big time.
Like, they've got a bad version of Fred VanVleet, a bad version that can't shoot. I suppose that's their replacement for Fred VanVleet. Are these guys just tanking now?
Well, Siakam's put him in a freaking, like, he screwed them. Like, they've gone to look to move the guy, and the guy's like, I don't want to play anywhere else. This is where I want to stay. I don't want to play for them. I won't sign. I won't sign an extension. Anywhere you send me, I won't sign. So no one's going to take that risk. No one's going to jump on that nonsense. So he's kind of screwed them. Like, because if I'm a GM, I'm like looking at, moving him. So from a fantasy relevancy point, though, like Siakam's somebody that people look at. But are you touching him now? Because he seems shitty as hell.
Yeah, I would take Siakam and I would take OG Anunoby.
Okay.
I'd probably even take Jakob Poeltl again in those mid-tier guys, as you start to watch them all go off the board. If Jakob Poeltl is still there at 80, I'll probably pick him up. If he's there at 90, I'd probably pick him up.
Is that them saying that they've got way more confidence and rightly so in a Pirtle over a Precious Akua or a Chris Boucher, who they just
So they should. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they should. They're not real good. Like,
Scotty
really,
Barnes, what do you think good for you? Is he fantasy relevant?
Yeah, fantasy relevant, but somebody will take him before me. I think
Take him too early?
Yeah, I think that he's probably more of a 60, 70 guy, and people were starting to take him in the 30s and the 40s last year. Are they going to play him like almost like a point guard role? Because I hate that as well. Like, they're just going to have, like, Dennis Schroeder's not good.
They don't have a choice.
No, they're going to play Dennis Schroeder, which is awful.
Nah. I actually reckon they might start with Dennis Schroeder to make it look realistic on what they're trying to do, but then he'll sit down and they'll give the ball to Scotty Barnes. I think that's what they're going to do. I don't agree with that.
OG and Pascal Siakam, if you're okay with their drops in field goal percentages this year, their usage is going to be unreal.
Yeah, I'm a big OG fan, so I don't mind that. But yeah, I don't know what's going to go on with that roster. It just looks weird. Just doesn't look right. Doesn't look like a basketball team. Speaking of doing well in the draft, but then being very interesting in the free agency, the Houston Rockets, Fred VanVleet, 3 years, 130 mil. Dylan Brooks, 4 years, 80 mil. Jock Landale, 4 years, 32 mil. Jeff Green's coming back, 1 year, 6 mil. What's going on in H-Town?
So I did really like their moves and I really liked their draft picks. But then I have a look at some of the guys that they've bought, and is Armin Thompson even going to play? Like, obviously he's going to play. But is he going to be playing 18 minutes a night and they're just looking to ease him in? Because they didn't pay Dylan Brooks $80 million to not play. So he's going to be starting. Jalen Green's going to be starting. Fred VanVleet's going to be starting. I'm presuming that it's going to be, your Jamari Smiths, which I got burnt on last year. Thanks, guys. And Alperen Şengün. I was interested in picking up Armin Thompson when I saw that he went to the Rockets, and now it's a no from me, dog.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I mean, you got Kevin Porter Jr., you got Christopher, you got Dylan Brooks, you got Tari Eason. Who knows what that roster could look like each week. It could look very different. So I think you're only like Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, Şengün. I don't know. It's a really tricky one.
Fred VanVleet. So what do you think happens with him? So he was going 19 points per game, 34% from 3, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, and a couple of steals. I rate him. I picked him up at about 22 last year. I would take him top 20 this year. I think that he's going to get more points.
FVV or Jalen Brunson? FVV or Jalen Brunson?
Fred VanVleet.
So, yeah. It's a big call.
I'm not taking the Brunson burner top 20.
Well, I don't think I'm taking FVV top 20. I think there's too many people who want the ball now, but he has to be the guy. Clearly, he's the guy. They're saying, we're putting you on that money. We're bringing you. You're the guy. So it's not a bad shout. Top 20? Nah. I'd go outside 20 for me.
Yeah, so Fred VanVleet. So,
outside 20 for me. I wouldn't, I wouldn't be picking him in the top 20. No. And I'm not doing that just to disagree because we've agreed too much on the show, but I think for everything that you've just said, it's too much of a risk, even though I know he'll be the guy. I just think everybody else, every team he comes up against knows he's the guy.
So Fred VanVleet was, wait for it, he was a top 15 guard last year. So
here's my call. Jalen Brunson has a better year fantasy-wise than Fred VanVleet.
Cool. I hope I'm in a lot of drafts with you.
I may have had a few too many, but that's just my opinion. I just think Jalen Brunson's at least shown that he can do it in a team. When's FVV been the guy to lead the team? He's never been the guy. NBA champion, Fred VanVleet. Not the guy. He wasn't the guy.
He doesn't need to be the guy. He's in Houston. Nobody gives a fuck. He's just going to bang out a lot of fantasy points.
Mate, I got a lot of love for Derek Fisher. Don't get me wrong, but he wasn't the guy. Like, come on now. Like, turn it up. He hit some amazing shots, but he wasn't the guy. Hang his bloody jersey up in the bleachers if you want to, but he wasn't the fucking guy. Come on, man. Turn it up. Far out.
Fred VanVleet isn't going to be worse than last year. And his ADP last year was...
I reckon his field goal percentage goes down.
Yeah,
I reckon
100%. But
goes down. I reckon his turnovers go up.
And his assists go up, and he scores 26 a game.
All right. I love this. We now have something to look at throughout the whole season. This is good. I enjoy this. I apologize for swearing, but you just got me fired up. And we're talking about a guy with the first name started with an F, and it just came out. I apologize. We move on to the 76ers. Pat Bev, 1 year, 3.2, and then two other dudes I've never heard of, just signed on 1 years. Is James Harden there? He's got to not be. Surely he's not there.
Who trades for him? It's not Houston now.
Isn't it? I don't know. He's James Harden is just looking to enjoy life, and all the power to him. He's the Nick Kyrgios now of the NBA. I'm just going to enjoy life, get paid, and do what I do. He's not looking to get a championship ring anymore. He's just looking to play basketball and enjoy life.
So, where do you take James Harden this year, and where does his stats go from last year? I'll let you answer where he's going. I'll get his stats up for you.
Where does he go? As in, are you talking about where does he go team-wise?
No, where does he go fantasy-wise? This is a fantasy sports podcast.
Fantasy-wise, I think for sure he's got to go. You still got to pick the guy. He's still 10 to 15.
So I've got him higher than you. I'm taking him before Tyrese Halliburton and LaMelo Ball.
No. I take Hallie before him. Hallie's locked in. Hallie's at the point of his life where he goes, you know what? I want to show. I know he just got paid. I'm always wary of players who just got paid, but they're at the point of their career where they're now going, I want the throne. How do I get it? You know, like I'm ready to go. Where James Harden's ready to go. I'm ready to dribble up the court, go to the logo and shoot the three, and then hit the strip club later tonight because I got millions of dollars.
That's exactly the kind of guy I need in my team.
Yeah, but shooting up the three, he's not looking for the assists. He's not getting any steals. He's getting turnovers.
He averaged 11 assists last year. He averaged 10.7 assists last year, 21 points, 6 rebounds. You're talking about Russell Westbrook and his triple doubles. Just come back to the GOAT that shoots 86% free throw percentage, 38% from three, and still shoots at 44% field goal percentage. He doesn't even kill you at that. Getting 20, 10, and 6.
In my defense, all I asked was how many triple doubles does Russell Westbrook get? I thought 8 was a stretch, just quietly.
I'm throwing it back in your face.
Okay, hold on. I'll give you this. If James Harden stays at Philly, I'll take him before Hallie. If James Harden gets traded to a low-ranked team that has no playoff aspirations, I'm gonna just divert my attention away. That's my opinion.
If he goes to a shit team, he could score 40 a night.
He could. He could.
That's what I want.
So can Cam Thomas at the Brooklyn Nets was dropping 40 on random nights. So was Jeremy Lin. I'm just saying, come on.
In my fantasy teams too.
I went there. Yeah, I went there. Spurs, Trey Jones, 2 years, 20 mil. Julian Champagny. What a name. 4 years, 12 mil. Spurs. It's all about Wemby.
It is all about Wemby. I'm excited for the Spurs. I think that there's going to be some sleepers on the Spurs. I want Trey Jones in my team.
Ooh. I like it. I'm a big fan. When Trey Jones, I mean, you've got the knowledge watching him play. When he is that starter's position, he can play. I don't doubt that at all. Absolutely.
So have a look at the other point guards on his team and tell me that he's not just going to start every game this year. He kills your 3-point field goal percentage. He's absolutely garbage at that. But there's nobody else on his depth charts.
Yeah, he's the starter, 100%. I think a lot comes down to how he links up well with Wemby, how he gets some assists in that situation. Keldon Johnson, obviously, at the same time. Yeah. No, I don't mind the trade, John. Where does he sit though? Where does he sit for you? Like, is he?
I think he's a guy that you can get in like the ninth round or something that can really round out your team and get that. Assists are so hard to find late in the draft.
I agree.
And I think people won't be looking here. I think Vassell is going to go high. I think Keldon's going to go higher than I think. And I actually think that they take away from each other. I think Wemby's going to go top 20. I'm not going to be taking him top 20, but he will go top 20 because the hype is real. And I'm going to be looking at Jeremy Sohan and Trey Jones.
I think Keldon goes higher than he should. I think Vassell goes high, but I think that's warranted. And I think you're spot on. I think Trey Jones should go later, and I think he'll be really efficient with the ball. I think he'll be really efficient with the ball for sure. And I think you'll get somebody who is trying to prove himself, but won't overdo it to prove himself. He'll just prove it with efficiency, low turnovers, and get the job done. Yeah, I don't mind it.
Non-fantasy wise, I actually think it's really good value too.
Yep, good call. Phoenix Suns, all happening in Phoenix. Eric Gordon, 2 years, 6.5. Eubanks, they're starting to do the Lakers list here. There's all the stars and then filling in the vet mins. Yep. Eubanks, 2 years, 5 mil. Damian Lee, 2 years, 5.3. Bates Diop, 2 years, 5 mil. Medu, 2.5. Okogie, 2.3. Watambi, 2.3. They're just starting to fill the roster now, aren't they?
Yeah. So I don't think any of those other guys are fantasy relevant, but I think it's really good for their championship aspirations. They needed guys that they could bring in for just really good value deals. I actually really liked Keita Bates-Diop last year. You know what? Eric Gordon can still shoot the lights out. Yuta Watanabe was leading the league in three-point field goal.
I really like the Watanabe sign. I really like the Watanabe signing, and I really like the Eric Gordon signing. I think at that price, 2 years, 6.5 mil, I think he's the kind of guy that they needed to come off the bench for sure.
Yeah, and Eubanks is great. But I'm going to ask you this. So you've got Devin Booker, you've got Kevin Durant, you've got Ayton, and who's their other massive guy?
Beal.
And they've just got Bradley Beal. Sorry, I just opened the wrong depth chart. And you've got Bradley Beal there. Who is the fifth starter?
Do you go I think you've got to go defensive, in my opinion. So I think you've got to go. I'm just having a quick look. Do I go? Is it Okogie? Does Okogie just step in and play that role? I think, who am I missing? Yeah, is it Okogie? I think it's Josh Okogie.
So I think it's Cameron Payne.
I was just about to say, unless it's Cameron Payne that you give him the ball. Yeah, sorry.
I was just giving the ball. Let him dribble it around. There's lots, and I think that you can probably take him with the last pick in the draft and get some really good value out of him. I don't think he gets starters minutes though. I don't think he gets starters minutes. Who else plays point guard?
Like you've got, it's not Beal. It's not Beal, but you've got Booker and you've got Durant. They can bring the ball up. They can.
Yeah, I think Campaign has proven again and again that he's a dog.
There's value, 100%. There's value. I'm not going to deny.
And then with those other guys, you've just got to see who gets the minutes, I suppose. But I just really like the signings from a basketball standpoint. I'm not sure if they're all super fantasy relevant, but I think on any given night when you're looking to pick up some threes, when you're looking to pick up some rebounds, when you're looking to pick up some assists, like Drew Eubanks could have been the best center not starting in the league last year.
Yep.
He's good.
Is Durant still top 5?
I have him at 6, so close enough.
Cool. Fair enough. Nice. Thunder. No big signings, really. Not too much there. How's
Patty Mills?
Patty Mills. I love that Patty Mills signage. That's cool. I do.
I hope he doesn't get waived.
Will he? If he gets waived, if he gets waived, where does he end up?
I don't know. Maybe a team like Phoenix.
Yeah.
Maybe
Who's
a team
relevant
like the
to you?
Heat.
Who's relevant to you? Obviously, SGA. Where's SGA sitting on your list for you with the Thunder?
Top 10.
Top 10. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Top 10.
Yep.
Just I've got him 10th on my board. So
It's still his team. It's his team. Even with Chet
Yep.
coming back and Giddy improving, it's SGA's team. And I think everyone's on board with that as well. I think everyone's
Yep.
really on board with that. I think Giddy's probably a great teammate to have. I think everybody knows it's SGA's team. Yeah, they'll be fun to watch. They'll be fun to watch this year, no doubt.
I like Giddy picked in and around that 50-60 mark. I suppose I like Chet at 40, just being a bit of a gamble in there. Like he could put up all-star type numbers. We just don't know yet. And 40 is sort of the point where I have a punt.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I'm happy with Chet there. I think everybody ripped into him a bit, and he came back all right in that summer league game. So, yeah, it looks good. Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards gets paid 5 years, 260 mil. Naz Reid, 3 years, 41. Shake Milton, 2 years, 10 mil. Alexander Walker, 2 years, 4 mil. Troy Brown Jr., 2 years, 8 mil. T-Wolves. It's an interesting roster.
Yeah, it is. I like it. They've paid their guy in Anthony Edwards. I've always hated Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. I've got Karl Anthony Towns weirdly at like 15 this year. I think somebody takes him before me.
Yep,
But
I agree.
Yeah, I think somebody takes him before me, but I think it's going to be a mistake.
I think one of the worst things that ever happened for him was like, as in from people that watch and fantasy, he won the 3-point contest. And people have just like blown out like his 3-point numbers and like what that does and just kind of assume that he does everything. He doesn't now. Rudy has changed that. Rudy is kind of allowed him to sort of move. It's kind of like where Anthony Davis wants to go, like how Anthony Davis wants the center to come in. You go get the boards, you go get the blocks. I'll kind of just like do my thing out here. So I actually have him dropping and I'm happy for people to take him earlier than me. Yeah, where does Anthony Edwards sit to you from a fantasy standpoint? Like, where's he starting to get to?
I think he's bang up against a bloke like Zion for me, in and around that sort of late 20s. He was bad last year from a fantasy standpoint. People were taking him top 20, and I just don't want to make that mistake, but I think that he has the potential to be a top 15 guy, which I really like taking in maybe that sort of early 30s. Like I'm taking him over blokes like Jimmy Butler or anyone like that, because I think this guy can just stay on the floor. I like Mike Conley beside him, obviously being a Grizzlies guy. Really love Mike Conley. I might even have a throw at him late in drafts. But apart from that, Kyle Anderson's a bit of a stream guy, and there's not much else going on here, is there?
No, I agree.
Where do you take Rudy Gobert?
Oh, he's an interesting one. It's his antics off the court at the moment as well that you're like, and he gets all up in his team and everything that happened with Kyle Anderson as well. You're sort of like, do they like him? Are they looking to float the ball to him? If he's not getting like that floater, like alley-oop basket, nice and easy under the rim, as a center, when you're picking that kind of guy that you're going to get the boards and you're going to get the blocks, you also want him getting that ball dished to him under the rim that he can just put straight in. So you kind of get the 10 points from him at 80%, 60%, 70% field goal percentage. But I don't know if they really like him. And that's the problem for me. So, look, I guess it honestly, for me, the value is in him depending on who you get. If you're got pick 6 and you get a Kevin Durant, I kind of want to put a Rudy Gobert with him to go my field goal percentage. I want to be efficient. I want to get some boards and I want to get some, blocks as I go along. But if I'm getting a Curry or I'm getting something, or if I'm getting a Giannis, you want to put him with a Giannis as well. So it really comes down to who I'm getting in those early rounds. For sure.
I love him with Giannis because they both fuck your field goal percentage.
Absolutely.
And you just absolutely, just lean into it. You're just happy to take those guys that will fall to you because, I don't want to take that guy because he's going to ruin my free throw percentage. Then suddenly you can take a guy around later. Yeah,
this is what we were saying earlier. I have no problem with giving away free throw. It opens up so many avenues to you. So many. Warriors, mate. We've got 2 teams to go. Draymond Green getting paid 4 years, 100 mil. That's where they decided to put their dollars. And Corey Joseph comes back 1 year, 3.2. We know Chris Paul's obviously at the Warriors. You've talked about it with G Wiz as well. What does that look like from a fantasy standpoint? Is this the last dance for the Warriors?
Yeah, I think that they're sort of getting towards that. They've got rid of blokes like Wiseman and that who they tanked that year for Wiseman. They've given up on some things like that. These guys just want to have a run at a championship. Clay's still good. Steph's still good. Chris Paul, look, maybe he sits a few games this year. Maybe he plays 18 minutes a night. I'm not touching Chris Paul in fantasy. I would touch Steph in fantasy. I'm staying away from Clay. I'm not touching him in real life, but I'm touching him in fantasy.
There's a lot of touching going on. Yeah.
Look, Dre's going late in drafts, and I'm a big Wiggins fan. I just love the defensive stats that he brings.
Yeah. I mean, you can't not pick Steph. It's still Steph's team. I'm not going anywhere near Klay Thompson, 100%. Draymond Green, nah. I just don't touch those type of players. You're spot on. Steph's the only one for me, and Andrew Wiggins. At a certain point, you're going to look to grab him in. I think he knows his role, and I think he does his role really well. Like he does.
What's that point? Is it 80? Is it 70?
Andrew Wiggins. I reckon he's going. Yeah, no, I wouldn't go any earlier than 80. I still don't think it's any earlier than 80. I think now that you put CP3 in there as well, when he's coming, if he comes off the bench or sort of, he might start, but then come on with the bench and things like that, I think past 80. Past 80. Yeah. Final one is the Wizards, mate. Kyle Kuzma gets his dollars, stays where he probably didn't really want to be. 4 years, $102 million. Money talks. What's going on in Washington?
So they've went and got a couple guys that will put bums on seats. So Jordan Poole is exciting to watch.
Yep.
Kyle Kuzma is exciting to watch. They are going to have god-awful percentages, but they could be taking 15, 16, 17 shots a night.
Who do you match up then? Like, so who are you seeing in a first round that at some point you go, you know what, I'm okay to put Poole in that mix?
Like a Steph?
Yeah, like I was thinking that, but Steph's still pretty efficient. But like maybe he is. Maybe you put him with a Steph. I don't like that John Poole's going to have a stack of turnovers. I think he'll want to dish the ball. I don't think he will just put up as many shots as he wants. I think he'll want to prove people wrong. I think I watched a few of their games last year. He really can play, and he really has learned a lot from Steph. Like, it takes true talent to score off the dribble the way that he was. You can see that he's like really been mentored by Steph. I'm not saying he's anywhere near that caliber, but man, he can do some pretty cool things. And I think he'll want to show that he can do something similar. I don't mind him. Where does he go? Where does he go? At what point are you going, Jordan Poole, I'll bring you in?
Here's one. It's not when does he go. It's do you take Bradley Beal or Jordan Poole?
Jordan Poole.
Yep. And is it around 40?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's what league are we talking? We're talking a 12-man league.
Always talking 12 to 10.
12-man, love it. Yep. 12, 24, but yeah. Fourth round. Yep. I'm okay with that. This guy, you're picking a guy who you know is going to have the ball in his hand. You're picking a guy who wants to prove the league that he should have got paid and deserved to get paid. My only hesitation is don't try and do too much. If he tries to not do too much, it's going to be an absolute steal. If he tries to do everything, then it could be a bust.
Do you want to know who I want if he does try to do too much?
Who?
Daniel Gafford.
Gafford's a really interesting one, isn't he? I think he hovers around a certain number, and I think he could be a real steal at a certain point in this draft for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, because he's always sort of played that 22 minute a night, and like he played really well in those minutes that he got last year.
Yep.
He shot at 73%.
Yeah.
Put that into perspective. So there's going to be a lot of missed shots. He's going to have to go get some boards.
Yeah, he has to. I think with their roster, he has to. What is he sitting at? He was 9 points, 5.6 boards, 1.1 assists, 73%. Yeah, he's got to be that guy. I'm trying to have a look. He played, what did he average? 20 minutes a game, 67% from 3-3. You'd like to see a bit more than that. 1.3 blocks, not horrendous. Yeah, look, I think he's definitely someone to look at for sure.
Yeah. So to put it into perspective, Daniel Gafford is ranked 176 on ESPN at the moment. Tell me there's not value there. Tell me there's going to be people that aren't even looking at him.
Like, who else is going to be really stealing his minutes? I think he gets more minutes. I think
Not Mike Muscala.
No, like, you're spot on. No, you're spot on.
I'll tell you that
like,
for free.
Jay Huff and Mike Muscala. Like, no, you're spot on.
I had to Google who Jay Huff was earlier today. So,
like, look, I think, yeah, mate, I think you've unearthed someone. If anyone's doing their research, and most people aren't looking at the Wizards to do their research. This is your point you're making before about where KP goes. Does he go higher just because he's a Boston Celtics player? Daniel Gafford, if people haven't done their research, people might go, oh, what are you doing picking Gafford? And then when you actually look at it, he's one of those ones that you could look back on and go, he was a steal. He's the reason why I'm sitting top 3 in my league. Spot on.
Honestly, in a lot of your leagues, they could just be going, who the fuck is that guy?
Yeah. No, spot on. Spot on. Spot on. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. We have ticked over an hour and 40 of content for you. If that doesn't give you all enough depth of what's going on in NBA free agency land, then you are looking at the wrong spot. Mate, any final words from yourself that people need to look out for?
No, you can find me at NBA_Mattrix on Twitter, and I will be talking shit all year on there.
Absolute pleasure. If anybody hasn't, make sure you click subscribe down below. Another big shout out to the Standard Squeeze and Snap Fitness 24/7. Support those that support us. It's been an absolute pleasure. This has been the Inside Fantasy Sport Podcast. Peace out.
Cheerio.